Good Morning Miramar, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m., right here, right now.
Good morning, Miramar. My name is Danielle Reales, Marketing Coordinator with the City of Miramar's Office of Marketing and Public Relations. Happy Valentine's Day Eve. We're so excited to be bringing you all a very special segment of Beyond Boundaries with Dr. Fleming and the rest of our special guests this morning. Before we get into all of our introductions, I do want to give one important city announcement. So today, the Miramar Police Department is hosting an amazing fundraising event for a great cause. It's called Tip a Cop Fundraiser. It's going to be a watch party at Boat Campers for the hockey game tonight, the Panthers versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that's going to be at Boat Campers in Miramar. That's 15500 Southwest 29th Street in Miramar. And this is actually supporting the Police Unity Tour. So as we had Detective Villalona on the show last week, he mentioned that the Police Unity Tour honors those officers who have been killed in the line of duty as well as their families. So we're asking you all to come out to this fundraiser to assist and raise money for those who so selflessly serve our community. And that's happening that's happening next Tuesday, February the 20th from 4 to 10 p.m. So we hope that you all are in attendance. So moving on to our segment today. So Beyond Boundaries, we're really excited, and as all of you know, this is a really special monthly series where we talk about different topics concerning personal and interpersonal growth with different people in our community who can provide some insight on these topics. So this month, seeing as the segment fell on the day before Valentine's Day, we thought we would do all about love and relationships and all of those fun things. So before we get into our topic today, I just want all of our guests to introduce themselves, and we want to do a reintroduction to Dr. Fleming and Alexis, our co-hosts this morning. So go ahead, Dr. Fleming.
Well, good morning, Miramar. As Danielle said, I am Shaniqua Fleming, and I'm excited about this segment of Beyond Boundaries because it is about relationships, and relationships are so core to everything that we do. So it's going to be fun to just hear the different perspectives that are here today, and also any comments that you might drop as to, what are your questions about relationships, whether they be romantic relationships, work relationships, or any other kind of relationship for that matter, even those with your pets. They have a say too. They don't always say it to us, but they do have a say, yes. And they do have feelings. So relationships, all about relationships.
Hi guys, it's Alexis with City of Miramar's Office of Marketing and Public Relations. I'm looking forward to this episode. We're going to talk about dating as millennials. We're going to talk about what it means to professionals in the dating world. When do you let somebody know who you really are versus your brand or your professional image? So it's going to be a really interesting show, and it's a great segue into our first guest.
Hi, my name is Brian Wilson. I'm the owner and founder of For a New Dawn, which is a community and social change consulting company. So I'm very excited to be here. I've done work with community mental health agencies. I've also done work in Haiti and in the U.S., and it's all about developing relationships, I agree, with pets, with your religious leaders, with your loved ones, with your romantic partners. But the other one is with your community, developing a relationship with the larger community of which you're a part. So I'm very excited to bring that perspective.
Hi guys, my name is Ebony Bryant. I am a local business owner and entrepreneur. I've owned several businesses over my life. My current bread and butter is the ID Inc. And like Brian, similar to Brian, I do management for large-scale events and programming for government agencies, nonprofits, and social enterprise. Very passionate about that work because I think part of who we are as people is connecting back to the community, to ourselves, and to the people dearest to us. And so I'm excited about talking about relationships, both personal but also professional, because it creates the kind of experience in life that we all really want: free, exciting, engaging. Thank you for having me today.
Yes.
Awesome. Welcome.
Welcome.
So thank you all again for being here today. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. So, we've kind of talked about a few different relationships so far this morning. So I'm just going to throw the question out there, and then anyone can kind of jump in. What would you say the definition of a relationship is?
Well, I think if you ask my bank account, probably with Tiffany's and with And with Neiman Marcus, I have quite the relationship with those places. No, I think for me, the definition of a relationship is an exchange of energy. So it's accepting and giving, ideally, although we do have some unhealthy relationships. But a healthy relationship, from my experience, no matter with whom you're sharing that moment or that time, is giving energy and accepting energy, and ideally a positive way. But again, you can have some negative exchanges of energy and that still be a part of a relationship.
Definitely.
I like what you said, giving and receiving. And I think the part that many people neglect to do is receive. And I think that's a part of relationships that when we can really, just own that part of it, then I think everything else blossoms from there, because the receiving part of it starts with having a relationship with yourself. Loving yourself, because you can't give others what you don't have. And you can't accept what seems foreign to you, because there's always a tendency to push back and kind of reject it. So I love that part of it.
Completely agree.
Yeah, I would say one of the hardest lessons for me with respect to relationships and career has been putting some of my career aspirations down long enough to be able to accept and receive love personally. I think I spend a lot of my time and energy building businesses and being in the community and all of that I love. But I found in the last couple of years, if I'm being honest, the last year, it's been super important for me to reconnect with those that are most important to me. Detaching from my technology, being present when I'm around people I love. That has been a learning curve for me. So when you said receive, that's it. I'm used to kind of doing things on my own and white knuckling it. But to be in relationship with people, friends, parents, my boyfriend, and know that they are there for me, that's difficult to sort of get used to when you're used to doing things by yourself.
Absolutely. I think that we've touched on a very, very important topic with the receiving of love. Sometimes that rejection or kind of pushback to receiving in a relationship comes from you feeling like you don't deserve it. I'm having a Beyonce moment. There's a quote that Beyonce says on Lemonade that says, "Why do you not allow yourself love? Do you think it's impossible for someone like you?" And it's so true. Sometimes we feel like maybe our work or our school or our aspirations make it impossible for us to receive. But it's so important, to Ebony's point, to have that support system on these critical journeys in career and in whatever it is that you're pursuing that you feel like love or the reception of love has to be shelved.
Right.
And I will say this, if you need a little bit of work in this area and being able to learn how to accept gifts, accept love from other people around you, I'm an only child. Spend time with an only child for just a little bit. We believe we deserve everything. I remember, I have a little anecdote. I had a roommate who came home one day and said, I really want to go biking. And I said, oh, well, I don't have a bike right now, but we'll go buy one. An hour later, she comes back with a $500 bike for us to go. And she's like, this is yours. I just want you to have this bike so we can go biking. And I was like, well, thank you so much. That is so nice. We went biking for like 20 miles. My butt was not happy about that. Right out here at the Everglades. It's a great trail. But then I was telling my friends, and people were looking at me like, you accepted a $500 gift? Is it your birthday present? I'm like, no, it's my Tuesday afternoon present. Like, why is this weird? Like, of course I deserve a $500 bike. And I just think it's important to spend time with people who truly are capable of accepting that blessing. Because it's a blessing to be able to give. How great do you feel when you give a gift to somebody, or even just buy somebody lunch, or bring them a latte, and you just get that smile on your face? Why would you want to rob somebody of that possibility, of that blessing, of being able to give you something, love, attention, or a $500 bike?
I think Ebony said something that stuck out in my mind when you talked about, professionally, growing yourself and how that causes an imbalance sometimes in relationships. And one of the things, I was actually talking with my husband the other day, and someone said to me, like, how do you guys do it all? And the truth of the matter is we don't. And every relationship has moments of growth and moments of, test, if you will. But the one thing that I've always loved about our relationship, and what I love about him, is we don't find ourselves in a position of you're taking a back seat or I'm taking a back seat. It's always a position of support. And sometimes that position of support requires that more is happening from one person as opposed to the other. But sometimes it requires there's no such thing as equal, right? And if you're measuring parts, then I think we've missed it.
Happens,
And so, there were points in my career where we changed positions of support. Yeah. There were points in my career where Jermaine was in more of a position of support. And then there were other times when I moved to that position of support for him as things were elevating and escalating for him. And I think it was probably about 10 years ago. Our daughter is now almost 10. And I realized that we're both out of the house, evenings on evenings, and I'm never going to get an opportunity to be a mother at this stage of their life, but I could always find another job. In fact, I'm living my dream right now, and this wasn't it. So for me, it was, you make decisions from your core, and you make decisions based on those things you value, and it will always return to you beyond what you can imagine. And so when I think about that in relationships, I think it needs to be not always reciprocal in terms of equal parts, but it needs to come from a place of you really, really do desire to give that, and also you feel worthy. To Alexis's point from her Lemonade quote,
listen,
to
shout
receive
her out when I can.
So I think that's, as you say, you're working on that. I would encourage you to just kind of look at that and say, where are my barriers? And what boundaries have I created for myself? And are those healthy? And are they still serving me? Right. Because sometimes they aren't. And there's some relationships that, let's just be honest, they're not serving us anymore. Mm-hmm. But we hold on. I know I do. I have a hard time letting go. I'm so loyal. Mm-hmm. And it's getting to the point where you just realize, you know what? It's okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay.
Right, it's okay. And, to that point as well, so another question I wanted to throw out there. What happens when you are unconscious in a relationship, and let's say, you're someone who loves to give, and you feel like you want to give, but you get easily distracted, and you get distracted with everything else that's going on? Because I think something Ebony mentioned, it's really hard to kind of balance it all. Yeah. And there's so many relationships in all of our lives that demand pieces of us.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever unconscious, though. I think you're always aware of what's going on. I think we choose not to pay attention to those cues and clues that are coming, but we always feel it. And I think that God gives us that internal compass, if you will. When things aren't right, we know it. We may turn a blind eye. And so so I guess if I hear you correctly, when we choose to operate as if we're unconscious, I think it really does require us taking a step back and saying, how am I really feeling? What's really going on? Because we don't really suppress things. I mean, we don't really get rid of things. We just kind of suppress it and it's still there. And so when we find ourselves in some relationships and we feel triggered, well, that's because we're suppressing a core value. And the triggers are happening because there's something there that we really want. And if you pay attention to the things that trigger you, they're probably in direct conflict with the things you really value. Yeah. And if you really look at that, it's like, why am I so upset? Like the other day I was talking, when things are not harmonious, that is not a good place for me, because I am love. And at my core, my deepest desire is love. And so anything that is threatening love, it's going to cause me to have that out-of-body experience, if you will, or dis-ease in my spirit.
Well, and I think one of the things that I hear people, especially millennials, we're always trying to do more. We're on the upswing of our careers. We're just at that age where we're really building our lives, our families. And I think one of the things that really threatens that harmonious balance is this scarcity mentality. And I tell people, when you get to the point where you feel like you're juggling your relationship and your spiritual life and your job and you're going to the gym, you're in the wrong mindset. Yeah. Because what you're doing is you're juggling this idea that you only have one place that you can direct that love and attention. Right. So I'm going to give my love to Christ or whoever your religious, a spiritual practice is. I'm going to give my love to my partner now, and then I'm going to give it to my kids, and then I'm going to give it to my job over here. Right. And that scarcity mentality of I can only give love in one place at a time is just false. Yeah. In fact, if you blend them, and if you're working toward that harmonious idea of, you just said something, I am love. I'm all of it. So I'm not going to work to advance my career and to become some, huge superstar in the business world. I'm going to work because I love what I do, and I love the ability to provide for my family and my loved ones. And I'm going to church because I love working on that part of me, because it helps me in my romantic relationship with my boyfriend. So when you start to think of things as not, this scarcity of I can give you this much and this much and this much, that's what gets us into trouble.
Right, we use or a lot instead of and.
Absolutely.
Alexis and Danielle and I were talking about that before the year started, and I said, you know what, it's a year of and. I'm doing this and that, not this or that.
Yep, I'm having steak and shrimp.
We need a pillow with that embroidered on it. The year of and.
That's it.
So funny. Something that you said that was interesting to me, I think both of you sort of pointed to a mindset around balance. Because I think personally, when it comes to my work, I sometimes have struggled with how do I give all of who I am to the things that I love and the people that I love.
Right.
And what ends up happening is I then have felt depleted because of it.
Yeah.
I work 12, 13-hour days. I can work anybody under the table.
Right.
I work on the weekends. And so what I've had to learn how to do more than anything else is love, appreciate, and spend time with me more than anything or anyone else.
Right. That's a great point, Ebony.
Yeah.
I too have gone on that journey of trying to strike balance, and what I realize is it doesn't exist, and there's no such thing as balance, right? But there is proportion, and as a professional woman who loves being a mother, loves being a wife, I realize that I'm gonna miss some things in life. Period. I'm just gonna, if I look at it that way, if I'm trying to have balance, but if I look at it as I'm going to create proportion, I'm going to show up for everything that matters, right? And so while I'm not going to make every football game. I'm going to try. I'm not going to make every. Oh yeah, I better make every dance recital. She's not. But you know what I mean. I'm not going to make every single thing that my husband has. But what I promise myself first, and then it pours out to them. I'm not going to miss the things that matter.
Absolutely.
And if we live a life of purpose, meaning that we're not going to miss the things that matter, we will have the substance that we need, and the proportion will come, right? So I look at it that way.
Too. Ebony is one of the best at, we'll plan a lunch, and okay, we're going to go, flip-flops, and we're going to go and have lunch on a Saturday afternoon, and okay, we're going to meet at 1. Thursday we're still on. Friday we're still on. Saturday morning we'll come. And I'll get this text or I'll get a call. How important is this lunch? Because I have had a heck of a week. And I would love it if we could can we just go to your house and snuggle on the couch and watch TV instead of being out with the masses and
the people.
And more often than not, I will respond with, "Thank you so much for saying it. I don't want to have to do my hair this morning. I don't want to have to do anything." And it's just that communication, and I don't feel any less loved. Our friendship is stronger for it, because exactly what you said. We're willing to talk about our needs, our boundaries, and I delight in giving her that space to take care of herself because you're taking care of my friend. Right. You're taking care of somebody that I love very, very much. And I think that communication is so key to be able to say, here's what I need, here's what I want, and know the difference between the two of those.
I think also forgiving yourself also when things don't always work out the way you plan. I missed an important event last year for someone who was very dear to me. And actually it was so funny that I got an email or text about talking about relationships, because this is a relationship with a friend of mine who I've been friends with for many years. And there was an important event last year where she needed me to be there. And it was on the day that I had a big event for work. And I think it's important for me to always be super transparent when I talk about these sort of topics. I may always struggle with which thing I should have chosen. Looking back, I probably should have been there. It was important to her, and I needed to do this thing for work. I think what's important when those decisions happen is something would have sacrificed. I decided to do one thing, but I think what's important for me is forgiving myself.
Absolutely.
Apologizing when you aren't there in the relationships that you need to be. Being open to saying, I'm sorry and I will do better next time if I can. And so it's always important to me to not necessarily try to be perfect, but be honest and when you fall short, and let people know that if I can make an amends and do better in the future, I will.
Accountability is key in forming any kind of relationship, and that also means accountability to yourself, and just kind of checking yourself, to Brian's point, checking yourself, knowing this is what I need, this is what I want, and being able to distinguish between the two and being honest with yourself, and then being honest with everybody else. Because at the end of the day, I've always felt like forgiveness was, for me, whether the other person is receptive or not, it's me saying, listen, I dropped the ball in this way or another. Please forgive me. Because once you've released that, now it's up to that person. The ball's in their court. You can't carry that anymore.
Definitely. And I think, to communication, and it's definitely something in me and my personal relationships that I've lacked, because I have, and I check myself on it, because I have a tendency to want everything to be perfect and to control everything. So if I'm falling in an area because I'm trying to hold another piece and trying to juggle everything, I'll just keep it to myself and try and juggle everything until it all falls on the floor, because I'm just like, I can't anymore. So it's really important to know that you're not going to be perfect in everything all the time. It's impossible. Like, no one person can be perfect at everything all the time. And so much of life, people are striving to do, more in their relationships, for their career, to get to that certain point. But my question is kind of, what is that point? Life is so much waiting for something, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. At what point are we really content with where we are?
I think it goes to what Brian said about communication, and I think that's like the golden nugget, right? Yeah. Communication really does work in a way that if there are expectations, who knows about them? Right. So a lot of times, whether it's in personal, right? Who knows? I didn't know.
You're in trouble for things you
right.
didn't know you were
I didn't
asked
even
to
know
do.
you wanted that. So whether it's in your personal relationship or at work, if we set expectations in our head and we never communicate them, then it's on us, right? So we can't have these expectations of people and we've never communicated them. So, and this is no slight on the fact that, you want to be there for your friends or your family, but it's also important for them to let us know, hey, it's really important, Ebony, that you're here for me. This means a lot to me. And, going back to your point of perfection, I used to think about perfection in a way where I want everything, all ducks in a row. I want everybody to call at a certain time and do everything. And I was actually on a call with a client the other day, a coaching client, and she, self-proclaimed perfectionist. And I said, why don't we reframe perfectionistic behaviors and the whole idea of being a perfectionist? Why don't we look at being a perfectionist? I want excellence. I want a high level of quality and lots of accuracy, but I want it while still learning and living through the process. And so really the only moment we really have is right now. And so this moment for me is perfect, right?
Absolutely.
And true transparency, I don't like being on camera. So that's why I like having the conversation, right? So you guys all hear this, right? So I didn't. And so the first show, I was kind of like, hi, I'm Dr. Fleming. So, ridiculous.
That's a really cute voice,
right? And so it was like, wait a minute. If I'm just having a conversation with you, that's really what it's about.
Absolutely.
And I move people through conversations. So if I can't have a conversation, then you don't get authenticity from me. So conversation coupled with authenticity creates the perfect moments. And that's all we can ask for.
From my perspective, if I had one message to give our viewers, here's a message from Uncle Brian. I think the way that you can reach contentment is when you realize that you shouldn't love people and love the important people in your life, whether it's your pastor or your rabbi or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your husband or your wife or your best friend. You shouldn't love them in spite of their flaws. If you want to reach happiness and contentment, you love them because of their flaws.
Yes.
You love them because of their flaws. I think that true love is thinking to yourself, I hate you so much right now. And you infuriate me right now, but I would rather be angry with you than not angry away from you. And when you do that over and over and you communicate that with yourself and you forgive yourself and forgive the other person, that's where true love kicks in. Because if you're expecting perfection, it's just never going to happen, and you're never going to reach contentment. And we do this all the time. I get so frustrated with religious leaders. We make these contracts with people. Like, we tell them that you need to be perfect. We don't ever want you to do this, that, or the other. And the moment that they slip up, we put them out to pasture because they have broken a deal into which they did not enter with us. They did not sign on the dotted line.
Yes.
So I think that's my goal for contentment, is I want to love everyone without condition truly. Yeah. I love you because of your flaws, not in spite of them.
I would say contentment has a lot to do with silencing the noise. We've talked a lot about the internal things, but we haven't really touched on, until what Brian just mentioned now, the outside, the social factors that impact why we can't look past in spite of, or why we feel like we have to be perfect, or why we feel like there has to be a juggle or a balancing act. And I can only speak for me, but like as an African American woman, as a young woman in my career, I feel pressure to exceed certain expectations that have been set on me. I feel I owe those things to my parents, Kevin and Pearl, and watching what they went through. I feel like I owe it to be an example for other young African American women and just women in general, to hold myself to a certain standard that sometimes I find my contentment in that rather than being content within myself. And it's a real thing. There are certain factors at play that make me feel like this can wait. Loving myself can wait. This relationship can wait because there's a bigger goal. I'm part of a bigger goal. I'm part of a bigger picture. And I think sometimes muting that out can be so therapeutic and so good for you, and sometimes kick that passion into the next level.
I think contentment for me has been, I just turned 35 in December, and I realized as I'm, sort of edging towards, as I was edging towards mid-30s, my mother always rounds up. She says, when I turn 34, she's like, okay, now you're 40.
She is not invited to my birthday party.
Right? But I realized one of the gifts about getting older has been that the voice within my head and the chatter around me, I don't allow to affect who I am at my core. My values are true to who I am. It's how I move. It's how I make decisions. It's who I choose to spend my time with. And I hold those values very dear to me. To me, that's contentment, is being clear on who you are and responding to the world based on that clarity. It is paramount for me in my life at this point to know what works and what doesn't, and set clear boundaries for people and things, including myself, right? Because I'm quick to say yes to another board meeting, another committee I want to sit on. And that's also to say to me, Ebony, is this what is good for you right now? Where do you want to spend more of your energy here as opposed to going to the gym or going to bed at a normal hour, or also management of money, right? Like that's been a big thing for me too. Do I want to spend money at this point, or should I be saving to buy a house with my hopeful husband Tim?
Oh, well.
So I think it's important to find balance for yourself, but also people that you're in relationship with, and that to me is contentment, is knowing who I am and making decisions based on how I move from that perspective.
And I love what you said, Doctor, about being present. And you mentioned being in the moment. I think we're constantly striving for the things that we don't have, and we don't take time to just sit in our blessing and our joy. You got to pay attention. It's an old movie, but Sister Act nailed it. You want to be somebody, and you want to go somewhere, then you better wake up and pay attention. But you do. You pay attention to the love that you have around you.
Yes.
I want to pay attention to how much I love spending time with this woman who is one of my mentors and my soulmate right now. And I want to soak up that love. I want to love getting to know and these incredible people that are in front of me. So just sit and enjoy it for a second. And that's so hard to silence that noise.
It is.
So hard.
It's very, very difficult, but worth the effort, I find.
Amen.
Worth the effort.
For me, I know we may go back and forth, potato, but for me, it's beyond contentment. I've experienced some extreme moments of contentment and peace in my life, and for me, it's wholeness. And I think in wholeness is where all those parts, the sum of the parts, actually equal more, right? So 1 + 1 is 100. There's synergy. There's just everything. Everything that you're desiring is out there waiting to avail itself to you. But it does require communication with yourself first, and then outwardly to others, and most importantly, staying connected with God, because I think there is always, what we need.
Right.
So for me, and for my tidbit to give away, it is discover that wholeness, live in that wholeness, be that wholeness, and accept nothing less than that for yourself and your relationships.
I agree.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yes. So I wish that we could talk forever and so much longer, but we do have to cut the episode here. We thank you for all of you for tuning in to this portion of Beyond Boundaries. We hope that this conversation is helping you and, can really help you in your personal growth in any area of relationship in your life. We'd love to hear from you, so follow us on social media. We are at City of Miramar on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Comment to us on this live feed. Send us a direct message. We'd love to include you in our next conversation. We will be back next month with another great topic about your instincts, luck or intention.
Luck or intention, yes.
Luck or intention, next month in March. So we hope to have you all tune in then. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, it's right here in Miramar.
Bye.
Happy Valentine's Day, y'all.